Well, we've still got a few months left before the info for the next Madoka Magica film drops, so the objective for today is to make it onto this playlist for the video essays around the multimedia franchise for Guilty Gear. And while I could just easily put together 20 minutes comparing Ramlethal Valentine with Nehru from Wonder Egg Priority as an excuse to put together some peak Floor 8 gameplay in the background, that's gonna have to wait for my autistic characters in anime barn burner. I should bring the Patreon back. Or I should tell you to subscribe for more video essays like this. But no, today I don't actually want to talk about specific characters at all, or functions at all either. Instead, I want to talk more broadly, and by doing make this video more approachable to anime fans, most of my audience.
Duel 1. Let's rock!
We need to talk about something interesting.
Guilty Gear, for those unaware, was a passion project to put one man's fan fiction, his metal album, and a few classic rock references together in an unrelated fighting game some 25 years ago. The franchise has continued, and as of the latest release, Strive, Guilty Gear is still a passion project to put one man's fan fiction, metal album, and classic rock references together, but it's now also the premier anime fighting game and a multimedia franchise. There's an anime, 2 card games at least. Exceed is amazing and you should all play it. And they just got CD Projekt Red to greenlight Lucy from Cyberpunk Edge Runners as a guest character. Yeah, the Trigger anime. I know, right? The company behind Guilty Gear, Arxis, somehow, against all odds, including Sega fucking them over with the rights for years until they had to give up and make Guilty Gear at home, have succeeded. Their plan worked. Guilty Gear is now, for some reason, appealing. It's growing, it's great, it's a great game, it's a great album, and it's so fucking cringe. But like, why, though? Where's the spice? Where in Faust's grab bag is the mystical element that makes fans engage with the story and the characters of this world? So many video game franchises would give anything for fans to care this passionately about their IP. And I don't think it's as obvious as, well, it's cool. Let's use an example here. This is Nagoriyuki. Nagoriyuki is, quote, literally, a noble vampire samurai who wields a blood-sucking blade. He's got a mechanical demon mask and a blood rage. He's from Africa, an obvious reference to Yasuke, a real historical figure. He is all about that Bushido and honorable fights and has spent decades meditating alone. Now, if you eat glue, and this is a term of endearment in the Guilty Gear community, you may think that Nagoriyuki is cool. Now, certainly they've done something in the latest incarnation of Guilty Gear in Strive to make things a little more, digestible. They've skewed it a little more towards acceptability. Don't get defensive or protective when I call Nagoriyuki uncool. I'm not teasing or ridiculing you for liking Nago's design. The rule of cool is obviously at the heart of things here. Like, literally, Word of Daisuke, the characters are all bottom-up designed around being cool. But what I want to argue is that this is the base level of engaging with Guilty Gear. You are like little children who throw dolphins. Let me explain so you can have the big book that man Keikaku brain. The problem is that nobody had any discretion or shame here. You can't just layer 7 cool concepts on top of one character design and consider it to be finished or sublime. It's like if you stuff birthday cake and maple syrup and sushi onto a hamburger, just because they're all independently delicious, you have not necessarily improved the hamburger. It just comes across as trying too hard. Say if we plot the number of grafted on character concepts against functional coolness, you'll see that the peak number is like 1.75, and then we've got Nagoriyuki and Ino over here at like 6 apiece. We've got witch, rock and roll aesthetic, overtly sexual, secretly a god, faded romance, lovers through time backstory, etc, etc, etc. Almost everything in Guilty Gear pushes so far past what would be peak cool and ends up pretty solidly breaking into the wall of, man, this is starting to get pretty dumb territory. Now, I'll say I am the last person on Earth who would ever criticize irreverence or boldness in design. Conceptually, I understand the rule of cool, but I don't think, really, Nagoriyuki is cool. It's indicative, I think, of something at the heart of Guilty Gear. There's something off about every aspect of the design. An uncanny that you can feel everywhere in the product. This has always irked me. It's gnawed at my mind, kept me from embracing the Guilty Gear aesthetic in its totality. And don't think this is limited to character design. Let me play you a clip of the main freaking theme from Guilty Gear Strive. Listen, I don't want to question Daisuke's vision, but the man rhymes blazing with blazing back to back 4 separate times in the anthem. That just sounds weird in English. You're never finding anything like this in classic rock unless the artist wanted it to sound awkward or crazy, like at the end of The Doors' Light My Fire or in The Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll. Certainly never in the main theme. And this is not to say that I know more than Daisuke about music or classic rock or anything like that. That's laughable. But it is to say that his understanding of Western culture is just a little warped. Whether it's the obtuse, inaccurate, or just slightly off interpretation of these Western tropes and sensibilities, or song lyrics just slightly unexpected or wrong, it's a game and a series filled again and again with little things that leave me leaning back in my chair thinking, really? They really did that? I've got a bajillion other examples. Soul's line, "Have I ever once called you Arya to save wife?" The Amazing Grace sample in extras. Ino's almost shot-for-shot giant naked array Evangelion reference at the end of the story mode. Axel's Union Jack bandana and fucking pant capes. I know that's not Strive, but still, come on, what the fuck? Before you jump down in the comments and defend any of this, 1, thank you for boosting engagement, I appreciate it. 2, wait for the other shoe to drop. And 3, I would never in any good conscience put any of this into my game. Because I have shame. I have a burning desire to edit everything, to clean it up, to have the signifiers used point towards some meaning, to avoid cliches, and to scaffold structure onto a blobby creative mess. But in spite of myself, I still, nonetheless, drink it up. I love that Guilty Gear exists. Why? The best way to understand the Guilty Gear experience is with a metaphor. Have you ever watched a movie in a language that you don't really understand, but the movie has no subtitles? And by the end, you couldn't recall a single plot point. But movies are so much more than the plot. You still feel the feel. You hear the tone, the essence of the film, because all of that is conveyed on wavelengths that fly straight past linguistic or cultural boundaries. Using this metaphor, that's, I think, when I realized it. That's the crux of the matter. The element that gets lost in translation and why it doesn't matter at all. It's idealized. It's fiction belovedly believed in and actualized. The zeitgeist. The feel of rock and roll. But not at all the reality of it. The form may be muddled, but the essence is pure, and the effect is all that matters. People don't actually want reality. Fuck details and grounding and storytelling structures or authenticity. A historical documentary of Yasuke the Black Samurai is interesting. It's a cool story. As is maybe a fictionalized story for him, like the recent anime have done. But a black vampire samurai is fucking overboard. It's crass and far less precise. But it's more accurate to what makes that concept appealing. The true hyper-reality, as Baudrillard would say. Nagoriyuki is peak Nagoriyuki fantasy. Honor, challenge of the fight, being used by others versus your own will, being hit on by the crazy Genki girl. Nagoriyuki is not cool. He's true. He is true to what we want to believe in and imagine. Not to go all Asuka, I read a philosophy book once, but this is a true third-order simulacra here. Hyper-reality precedes reality. In the same order, rhyming blazing with blazing may not sound correct, but it sounds emotionally correct. In my mind, I have no fucking idea what Soul or the singer is on about. But in my plums, I completely know. I feel it. Fuck yeah, that is bullshittery. That is blazing bullshittery. Extend this to other things. Bridget's messy meta-narrative trans coming out story. It's not clean and whitewashed and obvious. It's 20 years of fumbled storytelling and social attitudes changing. But talk to any trans person and ask how their discovery went. Just like the others, it perfectly captures the soul of the gender identity story, despite and in spite of the execution being flimsier than Chip. This motherfucker's name is Happy Chaos. If you need a more perfect example of how the kitschiest, cringiest, most on-the-nose character could be constructed backwards by starting at the feeling of lol, lamau, then I don't fucking know what to tell you. Guilty Gear comes across as naive, juvenile, and sickeningly earnest. Bumpy and inaccurate in a way that a Western or conservative company would and could never emulate. Daisuke and Arxis gave up self-respect or pride to make their art succeed. But in that Faustian bargain, subscribe, like the video, DM me pictures of ram feet, the Gretchen that came along and redeemed them was their bare-faced earnestness. My late father used to say, people can just tell when you're being sincere. This sincerity, this earnestness showcased in Guilty Gear is quite hard not to love, and it's damn near impossible not to respect.